What if the moment you feel completely helpless becomes the exact moment that proves you're stronger than you ever imagined? And what if, in that same moment, a life depends on whether you choose to act or walk away? Today's story will show you how courage doesn't always come from strength. Sometimes it comes when strength is almost gone. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss more powerful and meaningful stories like this. It all began with a sudden reaction. Wow. Not excitement, not admiration, just pure shock. Like something unexpected had just unfolded right in front of someone who wasn't ready for it. Then chaos followed. A loud scream cut through the air, sharp and urgent. The kind that instantly makes people turn their heads but not always step forward. A few moments later, confusion turned into confrontation. "Hey, what are you doing?" The voice was tense, defensive. Then it escalated quickly. "Get off of me. Get off of me." Panic was rising, and whatever was happening, it wasn't under control anymore. And then, almost strangely, a reaction broke through that didn't match the intensity. "You." Gloss. It sounded out of place, like someone trying to process the situation but not fully understanding it yet. But that moment didn't last long, because something more serious took over. Heat. The word came once, then again. Heat. Help. Now it was clear. This wasn't just confusion anymore. This was distress, real distress. Someone was struggling, and the situation was getting worse by the second. A voice tried to step in. "Hey, hey, hey." It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't loud. It was cautious, like someone unsure whether they could actually make a difference. But then came the truth, raw and unfiltered. "I can't. I'm too weak." Those words changed everything, because this wasn't someone refusing to help. This was someone who wanted to, but physically couldn't. And that's a different kind of struggle, the kind that hurts more. "We need help now," the voice continued, more desperate now. "I'm so sorry. I want to help, but I can't. I can't even bend down. Look at me." There was frustration in those words, but also honesty. No pretending, no hiding, just a clear admission of limitation in a moment that demanded strength. A small sound followed, almost like a breath catching, or someone trying to regain control. "Hey." Then a faint reaction, a confused "huh?" As if the situation still hadn't fully settled into understanding. But it didn't stop. "Help me, please. Someone help me." Now the urgency couldn't be ignored. The voice was breaking, breath uneven, every word heavier than the last. This wasn't just discomfort. This was a cry for immediate help. Breathing became louder, fast, strained, desperate. And then something unexpected happened. "Grab it, boy." The command wasn't directed at a person, it was directed at a dog. In the middle of confusion, panic, and helplessness, something else had stepped in. Something that didn't hesitate, something that didn't overthink. The dog moved. Nearby, another voice trembled with emotion. "Stay with me, babies. Please, just breathe. Don't go." The words revealed something crucial. This wasn't just about one life. There were others, small, vulnerable. "What are you doing?" someone asked, still trying to understand. But what they were witnessing wasn't confusion anymore. It was action. Then came a pause, a deep breath, and a realization that changed everything. "What? No." And then slowly, like a memory resurfacing after years. "I saved 3 children from the Wilmette River flood. I was strong once, too." The voice softened, but it didn't break. "Thank you for reminding me. I still am." In that moment, everything shifted, because strength hadn't disappeared. It had just been waiting for a reason to return. That realization didn't just change the moment, it changed her. For a few seconds, everything seemed to slow down. The panic was still there. The urgency hadn't disappeared. But something inside her had shifted. She was remembering a version of herself that refused to back down. The air was still heavy, breathing was still uneven, the cries for help hadn't stopped. But now, instead of stepping back, she leaned forward, mentally first, then physically. Nearby, the dog was already moving, focused, and alert. It didn't question, it responded. "Grab it, boy." The command had been given, and the dog followed through with complete trust. The small, fragile lives struggling nearby were barely holding on. It wasn't just a request, it was a promise. Someone watching couldn't fully process it. But the truth was, this wasn't something you explain. It was something you act on. The woman shifted slightly, her body resisting, but her will had changed. That mattered more. "I was strong once," she had said. And now she was proving it. not with power, but with presence. The environment remained tense. Every second counted. Every movement had purpose. "I'm telling you, I see them right here." Another voice cut in, more urgent now. "Call them again. We have to move now." The situation was no longer isolated. Others were starting to understand the seriousness. Help was being pushed forward. Then, finally, a shift in momentum. "I'm Dr. Kim from the animal hospital 2 blocks away." The dog, the kittens, the struggle, the urgency. "You're a hero, buddy," Dr. Kim added, looking directly at the dog. Because it was true. The dog hadn't just been there. It had acted. No exaggeration, just reality. And this dog, his paws are severely injured, and he's hypothermic himself. The one who had helped was also in danger. He went down there himself to save them. Now it was clear. This wasn't accidental. This was intentional. Both kittens need immediate hospitalization, and the dog needs treatment. But the dog didn't move. Not fully. Not willingly. "He won't go without you, will he?" Someone observed quietly. And just like that, the situation shifted again. Because this wasn't just about rescue anymore. It was about connection. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to separate. That hesitation from the dog said more than anything else in that moment. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was loyalty. The kind that doesn't need training or commands, it just exists. The dog had made its choice, just like she had. And now, neither of them was willing to leave the other behind. The situation paused again, not because the urgency had disappeared, but because a new challenge had taken its place. The kittens needed immediate care, the dog needed treatment. And the woman, she was still struggling to even stand properly. Can you treat him here?" she asked, her voice unsteady but determined. She wasn't thinking about herself anymore. Not really. "I don't have anyone. I can't go with you." That sentence carried more weight than the situation itself. It wasn't just about logistics. It was about her reality. There was no one to call, no one to rely on. And yet, even in that condition, she was still trying to make sure the dog didn't get separated from her. "But he won't go without me," she added, almost apologetically. "Please, we'll treat him here." Dr. Kim looked at the dog again, then at her. This wasn't a standard case. It wasn't just medical, it was emotional. Practical decisions weren't as simple here. "These paws have been through hell," Dr. Kim said honestly, examining the injuries more closely. "He's going to need rest and daily bandage changes for at least 2 weeks." It wasn't a quick fix. It wasn't something that could be handled casually. It required consistency, care, stability. "No one?" Dr. Kim asked gently, giving her one more chance to mention someone, anyone. She shook her head. The answer was clear. "The kittens are stable enough to transport. We're taking them to the hospital now." That part was decided, immediate action, no delay. "Is there someone we can call for you? Family? A friend?" There was a pause again, not long, but heavy. "Wait, let me make a call. I might have a solution." That sentence changed everything. Not a guarantee, not a promise, but a possibility. Moments later, the atmosphere shifted again as another person arrived, calm, composed, and purposeful. There's a place, a foster home specifically for elderly people and their senior pets. For a second, it didn't fully register. A place for both of them? The idea felt almost too good to be real. Then a new voice entered, warm, reassuring, steady. "I'm Sarah from Sunset Senior Pet Home. Dr. Kim told me about you too. Let's get you both somewhere safe and warm." Safe, warm, together, not separated but treated as one unit. "Your turn, brave boy." The tension that had been building slowly began to release. "Thank you. Drive safe. Bye, guys." The moment was transitioning from crisis to care. Now it was about recovery. Time passed, not dramatically but steadily, and then a new scene. "Mrs. Chen, you have visitors. We wanted you to see how they're doing." And just like that, the next chapter had begun, quietly but filled with progress. "They are thriving, Margaret." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Real weight, not just survival, but recovery, growth, life moving forward. "Oh, thanks," she replied softly. But her voice didn't fully hold steady. Because hearing those words, it meant something deeper. It meant that everything she had gone through, that moment of pain, of struggle, of pushing past her own limits, had mattered. And then, without trying to hide it, the emotion came. Tears. Not out of sadness, but relief. The kind that comes when you finally understand that something you fought for actually made it. The kittens are being adopted together by a family next week. the voice continued gently, making sure she heard every part of it. They wanted me to tell you thank you. Without you and Scout, they wouldn't have made it. Scout. Now the dog had a name. Not just the dog, not just the one who helped, but Scout, a name that felt earned. That one sentence connected everything. Her effort, the dog's courage, the outcome. And then came something unexpected. Which means, legally, there was a slight pause, almost as if the next part needed to be said carefully. How he's available for adoption if someone wanted to adopt him. There was silence for a moment, not confusion, but realization. Me? She asked, almost instinctively, like she didn't fully believe she had the right to even consider it. A small laugh followed, not because it was funny, but because it felt unreal. He could be mine. For someone who had just said she had no one, this moment shifted everything. Yes, came the gentle response. You're mine, and I'm yours, Margaret. It wasn't just about ownership, it was about belonging, for both of them. A connection that had formed in the middle of crisis was now becoming something permanent, something stable, something real. Then, just as that moment settled, another voice entered. Someone's here to see you both. The timing felt almost intentional, like the story wasn't finished yet. A light laugh followed as someone stepped forward, carrying both familiarity and something unexpected. I'm one of the children you saved from the Wilmette River flood. In 1974, I was 6 years old. Margaret's expression changed instantly, not confusion, but recognition trying to surface after years. Jennifer. The name came out carefully, like she was reaching into the past and pulling something forward. Little Jennifer Lee, you were the smallest one, Margaret said, her voice soft but certain. I pulled you out last. A quiet pause. That's me, Jennifer confirmed, smiling, but there was emotion behind it. You saved my life. The connection was undeniable now, past and present, meeting in one moment. Jennifer's eyes moved slightly, noticing something else. Is that the same medal from that day? Margaret glanced at it, almost unconsciously. It stuck with me my whole life, Jennifer continued. And when I saw the news report about you and Scout, the same words, I knew it was you. That recognition wasn't random, it was earned. And I want to help you now, Jennifer added, her tone steady and sincere. These are housing assistance options. When you're ready, I can help you find one. The shift was complete. What once felt like isolation was now support. What once felt like the past was now returning in the most meaningful way. Best decision you ever made, Jennifer said softly, glancing toward Scout, is exactly where he belongs. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt aligned. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt aligned. The room was quiet, but not empty. It carried warmth now, real warmth, not just from the temperature, but from the presence of people who cared. Margaret sat there, still processing everything that had just unfolded. Just days ago, she had believed she had no one, no support, no direction. And now, in front of her, stood proof that one moment of courage had quietly rebuilt connections she thought were gone forever. Hi, Margaret, Jennifer. Another familiar voice entered, soft and full of affection. Darling, it is so good to see you. How was your day? Margaret looked up, her expression softer now, more open. She wasn't guarded anymore. She didn't need to be. I brought you something, the woman continued, stepping closer with a small package in her hands. For Scout. For when you both move into your new place next month together. That sentence alone carried so much meaning. Not if, not maybe, but when, next month, together. Margaret's eyes shifted towards Scout, who was resting nearby, calm and comfortable. The same dog who had once been injured, cold, and fighting to survive, was now safe, healing, present. Scout didn't just need a home, he belonged. Margaret reached out, her hand a silent promise that the chaos was over. 50 years ago, she whispered, I saved 3 children from a flood. I thought that was the peak of who I was. It was a moment of selfless courage that she carried for a lifetime, defining herself by that one act. But now, looking at Scout, she realized courage doesn't expire. It wasn't just about being remembered, it was about still being capable. Jennifer stood nearby, a witness to a new kind of strength. Margaret was showing up. You reminded me, she said, courage doesn't belong to a single point in time. It waits for another chance. The paperwork now had purpose. This path was real. Around them, life moved forward. A stable one. And for the first time in a long while, Margaret wasn't facing it alone. Scout shifted slightly, his presence steady and calm. He didn't understand everything that had happened. He didn't need to. He had done what he knew was right. And somehow, that had been enough to change everything. Jennifer stepped forward again, placing the documents gently on the table. "Whenever you're ready," she said, her tone reassuring. "We'll take this one step at a time." No pressure, no urgency, just support. That alone was new for Margaret, because life had taught her to expect the opposite. But this was different, and she could feel it. The room, the people, the moment, it all came together in a way that felt complete, yet still moving forward. Because this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something she never thought she'd have again. Stability, connection, a place to belong. And as she sat there, with Scout by her side and people around her who genuinely cared, one truth became clear. Sometimes the most important moment of your life isn't the one you're remembered for. It's the one that reminds you you're not finished yet. Sometimes the most important moment of your life isn't the one you're remembered for. It's the one that proves your story is still moving forward. In the weeks that followed, everything began to take shape. Not all at once, not perfectly, but steadily. The kind of progress that doesn't need attention to be real. Margaret and Scout adjusted to their new routine at the senior pet home, where things were simple, calm, and consistent. There were no emergencies here, no chaos, just time, care, and quiet healing. Scout's recovery became part of that routine. His injured paws, once raw and painful, were now carefully treated every day. Bandages were changed with patience. Movements were slow at first, cautious, but each day showed improvement. He was no longer the dog struggling in the cold, risking everything for survival. He was safe now, protected, and more importantly, he was no longer alone. Margaret, too, was changing, not in a dramatic way, not in a way others would immediately notice, but internally, something had settled. The weight she had carried for years, the feeling of being disconnected, of having no one, it was slowly lifting. Not because everything had been fixed overnight, but because something had shifted in how she saw herself. She wasn't just someone from the past anymore. She was still someone who mattered. Every morning, she and Scout shared a quiet presence, a shared understanding that didn't need explanation. The housing support became real. Papers were reviewed, options discussed, because this time it mattered. Then Margaret stood holding a small set of keys. They felt significant because of what they represented. A home, not temporary, not borrowed, hers and Scout's. As they stepped into the new space, there was just a quiet pause. Something permanent for the first time in years. Jennifer stood nearby, understanding that some moments don't need words. Best decision you ever made, she had said before. And now, standing there, it felt true. Margaret glanced down at Scout, who had settled near her feet, calm and at ease. "You belong here," she said softly. But again, it wasn't clear if she was speaking to him or to herself, because the truth was they both did. Days turned into weeks. The new routine formed naturally. Walks became easier as Scout healed. The bandages eventually came off. His steps became stronger, more confident, and Margaret, she moved differently too. Not physically, but with more certainty. She wasn't waiting anymore, she was living. One afternoon, as sunlight filled the room, Margaret sat quietly, her thoughts drifting back once more. Not out of regret, not out of longing, but out of reflection. 50 years ago, I saved 3 children, she had said. For so long, that moment defined everything. But now it didn't stand alone anymore. Because what happened recently, what she and Scout had done together, it added something just as important. It reminded her that courage isn't limited by time. It doesn't belong to youth, it doesn't fade away. It waits. And when the moment comes again, it shows up. Margaret reached down, gently resting her hand on Scout. No rush, no noise, just calm. Outside, life continued like it always does. People moved, days passed, stories unfolded. But inside that small home, something meaningful had already been built. Not from grand events, not from recognition, but from a single decision to act even when it felt impossible. And that decision had come full circle. Because in saving others, she had found something too. Not just purpose, not just connection, but a second chance. And sometimes that's more powerful than anything else, because it proves one simple truth. No matter how much time has passed, it's never too late to become who you were meant to be.